This was the highest requested game on a previous poll from you guys, so it makes it appropriate to make a series about it. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. This video will have spoilers. With that in mind, let's begin. Henry Stein, the protagonist of the story, is invited to the Joey Drew Studios after 3 decades of not working together. Joey, the sole owner of the studios, mentions that there's something he needs to show to Henry. Henry goes to the studio's old workshop, which seems to be abandoned and in a pretty bad shape, with ink leaking out in several places. Henry locates the ink machine and observes a few questionable experiments Joey had been carrying out after Henry left the company. Henry listens to the first voice recording of one of the workers in the studios, Wally Franks.
Not time anymore, and I simply don't see why we need this machine. It's noisy, it's messy, and who needs that much ink anyway? Also, get this. Joey had each one of us donate something from our workstation. We put them on these little pedestals in the break room to help appease the gods, Joey said. Keep things going. I think he's lost his mind, but hey, he writes the checks. But I tell you what, if one more of these pipes burst, I'm out of here.
He seems to have been one of the animators, unaware of what the ink machine is used for. He explains what the source of the leaks are, which are the broken pipes running within the walls connected to the ink machine. Joey had also asked his workers for a strange task, to donate something from their workstations and put them on cryptic pedestals in the break room. This allowed the ink machine to become activated and ready to run. Maybe something sinister and related to supernatural. Maybe a spell to bind their souls to unfathomable creatures. Henry also observes several posters on the walls with slogans saying, "Work hard, work happy," which is an oxymoron quote, suggesting how Joey possibly viewed his employees as mindless individuals whom he could exploit in the workplace. As Henry manages to get the ink machine running and tries to go back to it, he finds the door frame being boarded up when suddenly a hostile moving version of Bendy with ink dropping down from it attacks him. The ink seems to give life to several demonic entities, which makes Henry run for the exit. But as he approaches the door, the floorboards break, dropping Henry down to the lower floors. In there, he finds another voice recording of a different worker called Thomas Connor.
It's dark and it's cold, and it's stuck in behind every single wall. In some places, I swear this godforsaken ink is clear to my knees. Whoever thought that these crummy pipes...
It shows whatever the ink machine is used for is something evil, as it's kept as a secret. Thomas Connor also seems to be an engineer who possibly installed the machine and carried out frequent repairs on it. Henry turns some wheels and drains the flooding ink and observes more sinister quotes saying, "The creator lied to us." It's unclear at this point who wrote these on the walls with ink, but it's unlikely that any of the workers did such thing. It seems whoever did it was someone or many who were stuck in this place, manipulated and lied to, left with the ink. Henry soon finds an axe which comes in handy, breaking the boards blocking his path. He then enters a room with 6 lit candles on the floor around the drawing of a circle, resembling some sort of a ritual, with 2 coffins standing at the back. As soon as Henry approaches the circle, he passes out, waking up soon after, confused to what happened to him. This clearly depicts how Henry was tricked into the workshop, as the candles were recently lit, waiting for him to step into the circle. After leaving this room, Henry observes more cryptic writings. "He will set us free," presumably being written by the same people who wrote the previous writings about the creator lying to them. Henry then plays another voice memo from Sammy Lawrence, which is very mysterious.
From the shadows to rain his sweet blessings upon me, the figure of ink that shines in the darkness. I see you, my savior. I pray you hear me. Those old songs, yes, I still sing them.
He soon experiences auditory and visual hallucinations of the same man handling some Bendy cutout boards, or at least, that's what he thinks. More ritualistic symbolisms are seen, with more coffins next to them, suggesting that whatever experiments Joey carried out included human sacrifice and paranormal rituals. Henry then arrives in the music department, listening to yet another voice memo from Sammy Lawrence. Sammy mentions how he was the composer of the cartoon songs and how the implementation of more unnecessary tools within the workplace distracted the workers, being actually counterproductive to the success of the studio. Another voice memo from Norman Polk shows the bizarre attitude of Sammy and how he did strange things, stalling the work of the music coordinator, locking himself in the projector room, even after the projector would turn off, without explaining what he's doing there. Henry then suddenly gets attacked by some demonic humanoid ink creatures, whom he destroys by hitting them with his axe. After evading these creatures, Henry enters the voice recording room, playing a voice memo from Susie Campbell.
For Joey Drew, but I can already tell I'm gonna love it here. People really seem to enjoy my Alice Angel voice. Sammy says she may be as popular as Bendy someday. These past few weeks, I voiced everything from talking chairs to dancing chickens, but this is the first character I've really felt a connection with. She's a part of me. Alice and I, we're going places.
She explains how much she loved working here and how connected she felt to the new character she was voicing, Alice Angel, a new promising cartoon character that might one day even become as popular as the mascot Bendy. Susie even mentions that she feels Alice Angel feels like a part of her. Henry then finds a sketch portraying different emotions of Bendy, which are all portrayed by the same facial expression, with a sticky note saying, "Do not show to Joey," a sign that possibly represented how the workers had to suppress expressing their feelings to Joey, how they needed to smile even when they were sad, angry, or felt otherwise. In other words, they could not express themselves and had to always behave and let Joey push them around. Henry, on his way, finds a note on a stairwell wall that if any worker is caught cheating a sick day, their salary would be docked for an entire week, showing how Joey exploited the workers and terrified them into not even thinking of taking any sick days. This might at first appear fair, as after all, lying about being sick hurts the company, and many can repeat the same actions, placing a massive toll on the company earnings and workflow. But soon, more and more hints show that there's more to this company and how many felt like they're being used and mistreated. Henry then encounters another ink monster, this time being civil and seemingly scared, running away when Henry approaching it. This creature has a hat on and holds onto a valve which Henry needs to clear an obstacle from his path, which makes Henry squash it with a box and obtain it. This creature seems to have been the lyricist working in the underground, to have silence so he could work and focus. He seemed to be keen on working and generally a peaceful man called Jack Fane, who somehow transformed into this monster. Henry then gets hit by a shovel, making his vision go blurry, seeing a man with an overall and a bendy face mask, sounding similar to Sammy Lawrence.
Rest your head. It's time for bed. There we go now, nice and tight. We wouldn't want our sheep roaming away now, would we?
When Henry wakes up, he faces this creature who on closer inspection looks to be identical to the Eng creatures, wearing the cut-off head of Bendy's cutout board, giving himself some sort of an identity, differentiating himself from the rest of the Eng creatures. Sammy seems to have lost his mind, calling to a lord, calling Henry a sheep to be sacrificed for the lord, so Sammy could be noticed. Sammy further explains he's doing this to be finally freed from this Enki body, so he can be freed. They can be freed, indicating that the writings on the walls mentioning the creator asking to be freed were written by the Enk monsters, or in other words, workers whose souls transferred into these Enk bodies. Sammy then leaves the room and mentions that the ritual must be completed, where Henry finds himself tied on top of a ritualistic circle symbol. Through the speakers, Sammy calls to the Enk Bendy monster, offering Henry to him so Sammy could finally get freed. This only backfires as Bendy attacks Sammy, and Henry manages to break free from his restraints and escape Bendy.
Bendy, arise from the darkness. Arise and claim my offering. Free me, I beg you. I summon you, Ink Demon. Show your face and take this tender sheep. No, my lord, stay back. I am your prophet. I am your Lord.
Henry then encounters a live version of Boris the Wolf, who guides Henry to a safe house. After having a soup, Boris accompanies Henry outside to explore more. Henry then soon arrives in the Heavenly Toys Factory, a place which was set up to make plush toys of the characters of the Joey Drew Studios. Henry then finds another voice memo of someone called Sean Flynn. He mentions how he runs the factory, making toys of the characters, and how they barely sold, showing that the company is not doing as well as portrayed. Soon after, Henry enters a room dedicated to Alice Angel, where suddenly a disfigured humanoid Alice Angel appears, inciting Henry to play a game with her. A voice memo from Susie Campbell, the voice of Alice Angel, suggests how she was discarded without her even knowing, with a new voice actress taking her place, called Allison Pendle. Another voice memo can be found from Joey Drew in The Demon Path, which mentions how with enough belief, death can even be cheated. A sign that it might have been Joey who conducted the experiments to trap the souls of workers in the animated bodies of the characters, making them immortal, never dying again. Maybe this was an idea that he was obsessed with, never to die, to be immortal. Henry then rejoins Boris, who gives him a pipe to defend himself with. After playing another voice recording of Thomas Connor, he mentions how Joey Drew is cutting corners with basic health and safety, not fixing elevators which could potentially lead to accidental deaths. Henry then observes multiple Boris bodies having their hearts pulled out, which Alice Angel mentions that she did this to make herself look beautiful. She further explains that a certain someone made her do it, possibly the character of Alice Angel, who had come to life herself.
Look around. It took so many of them to make me so beautiful. Anything less than perfect was left behind. I had to do it.
Soon later, Henry plays another voice memo from Susie Campbell, who shows how naive and easy to deceive she is. She mentions, even after being suddenly replaced with any prior notice, Joey told her times are harder and called Susie Alice, referring to the character she voiced, which makes her feel charmed. Soon after, Henry encounters Alice Angel, who who mentions that she was stuck in a puddle of ink, which there was voices and screams. She first was a goo of ink, shapeless, but second time she got out of the puddle, she managed to give herself a proper shape. There are also two voices in this character, one being more certain and assertive, and the other one more naive, which could be the embodiment of Susie Campbell, being the naive one, and Alice Angel character being the more wicked one. She also mentions an ink demon, which takes these transferred souls into a tunnel-like place filled with ink, which is something the protagonist will experience if he ever dies. Alice Angel decides to let Henry live and even help him escape the studio, under the condition he would run some errands for her. At a point, Alice Angel says how there used to be a perfect angel, despite what Joey said, referring to herself, Susie Campbell, suggesting how she was mentally abused and manipulated by Joey. After listening to a voice recording from Norman Polk, it becomes clear that the next monster Henry faces is the embodiment of the projectionist, appropriately having a head of a projector, still not having a proper shape or form like Alice Angel, who tried vigorously to assemble herself. After completing his tasks, Henry is instructed that he can get on the lift and go to the ground floor, heading back home. As the elevator ascends higher and higher, Alice Angel changes her attitude suddenly and brings the elevator back down, demanding that she wants the Boris that is accompanying Henry, as he's the most perfect one so far, whom will make her become more beautiful.
You will not stop what needs to be done. Now come down and bring me back my forest! It's the most perfect forest I've ever seen, and I want it! I need it. I need it inside, so I can be beautiful again! Don't you understand?
As the elevator crashes, incapacitating Henry with what is left of his strength, he watches Boris trying to help him up, as Alice Angel slowly approaches him and takes him away. Henry, instead of finding a way out, goes on a mission to rescue Boris from Alice Angel's grasp. Henry enters a room which belonged to Grant Cohen, the accountant of the company, with writings all over it mentioning money and tax, portraying how the company suffered financial hardships. There's also an unintelligible voice recording of a man and a monster, with a man struggling coming to a stop, with the monster only growling, which might hint out how the transformation of a person's soul into an ink monster is like. Henry then comes across another voice recording of Susie Campbell, who mentions that she knows Joey is talking behind her back, and despite that, she's still willing to hear him out in another meeting. But she mentions that Alice doesn't like liars, showing how her split personality portrayed in Alice Angel began, one side being mean and assertive, and another being naive and gullible. Henry then comes across a large number of ink creatures who are peaceful and upset, who ask when they would get free and go home, who seem to have been the workers once in this company, whose souls became trapped here due to the experimentations of Joey with the ink machine. Soon later, Henry comes across a voice recording from someone called Bertram Piedmont.
For 40 years, I've built attractions that stagger the imagination. Colossal wonders, such as the world has never seen. I have earned my legacy with sweat. Right in front of everyone. High-level investors, Wall Street tycoons. The ever-tactless Joey Drew introduces me, the great Bertram Piedmont, as Bertie, like I was his child. You may be paying me, Mr. Drew, but you don't own me.
This shows how Joey yet again had another big idea to create an attraction similar to Disneyland, which they would call Bendyland, with sketches and models portraying its pre-production. Henry then soon enters a representation of what this attraction would look like, which seems to be in production stages. Bertram then has a dialogue of how Joey wanted to dispose of him after he finished his project, but he says that he could never get rid of him, when suddenly the carousel comes to life, being embodied by the vengeful soul of Bertram. Henry destroys the carousel and continues on his mission to save Boris. Henry then comes across another voice recording from Joey, who goes on a monologue how the biggest challenges can be conquered by believing in one's self, but then mentions how he's tired of this crap and his charming demeanor, instructing everyone to believe and dream are only a business strategy, and he does it only for his selfish gains, proving how he doesn't care much about anyone but himself, manipulating people with his words to get them to do what he wants.
I believe there's something special in all. With true inner strength, you can conquer even your biggest challenges. You just have to believe in yourself and remain honest, motivated, and above all, who you really are. Okay, let's stop right there. I can only do so many takes in this trash today. And tell the guys in writing I want more use of the word dreaming in every message. Keep railing on that, okay? Dreaming, dreaming, dreaming. People just eat up that kind of slop.
Henry then gets on a train, with Alice Angel mentioning how no one had control over anything in the company, with cutout boards of ghosts popping out behind gravestones, suggesting how many workers died here. Alice Angel asks Henry why he really is back in the company, something that she really wonders alongside other trapped souls. At the end of the rail track, Henry gets stopped by a modified hostile Boris, who Alice Angel created, enticing him to kill Henry. After Henry manages to defeat Boris, in an emotional scene, he transforms into ink and sinks into the grounds. Alice Angel, infuriated by Henry surviving, she runs towards him to kill him, when suddenly she gets stabbed by another non-deformed Alice Angel, accompanied by another Boris clone, who has a metallic arm. Henry wakes up and finds himself confined inside a room, observing Alice drawing on the wall. She tells Henry how creatures down here are not friendly, that's why they imprisoned Henry, as they don't know who he is. She informs him that she doesn't even remember who she even is, as she was just thoughts, and then suddenly woke up in this tangible body. After several hours, or what also seems to be days, Alice informs Henry that the trapped souls here write on the walls, including herself, as it's the only way they could be heard. They need to be aware of the ink, however, as it could claim them. Alice then mentions that Boris responds to the name Tom, who are unable to speak as they were designed as silent characters, with Alice Angel capable of speaking as she was designed to speak. This Boris seems to have the soul of Thomas Connor, as he responds to the name Tom, and this new Alice Angel seems to be no other than Alison Pendle, the new voice of Alice Angel. She hands Henry a tool containing a glass resembling a hand mirror, which allows people to read hidden messages on the walls, invisible to eyes. She mentions that Henry is the hope that she's been looking for, while Tom thinks he's dangerous. Tom and Alice have been in a safe house, planning out their escape and mapping out the floors. Then at a point, Tom goes out, which leads to him attracting the ink demon, exposing their hideout. Tom and Alice leave Henry confined, escaping as the ink demon approaches their safe house.
Sorry.
Henry uses the magical hand mirror Alice gave him earlier, which specifically shows him the way to escape, as if someone already drew these for him, guiding him, knowing about how the current events would exactly play out. Henry then gets on a boat and follows the path of the Ink River. In there, he observes a large bendy hand pulling the boats down the river, sinking them. At the end of the path, Henry arrives at a little settlement where he gets attacked by Sammy. Going head to head with Sammy, and as he's about to die, Tom comes to his aid and kills Sammy. He then offers his axe to Henry, letting him back up.
Oh, that was close. You're lucky we were in the neighborhood.
Was that him?
I don't think so. The Searchers and the Lost Ones built this place. Sammy must have been keeping them at bay, now that he's gone. Looks like we're in for a fight. Get ready.
As soon as he stands, Alice informs him that this place was built by Searchers and the Lost Ones, and that Sammy was the one keeping the ink creatures at bay, when suddenly they become surrounded by them. After defeating the ink creatures, Henry leads the way, walking on a broken floor, with plank boards making way. As Henry steps on one of them, it breaks, dropping him to the administration room. In there, Henry finds another voice recording from Thomas Connor.
Client, Joey Drew Studios. Although we're making progress, the client's expectations keep changing. What started as a machine to simply mold life-size figures now seems to be teetering on the edge of magic more than engineering. Although Mr. Drew remains convinced they're the same thing, the process of running the cartoon built through the machine for the figures to imprint upon themselves is going well. We've had several near successes. One weird note, the first figure ever created was a failed attempt in the likeness of the character called Bendy. Since that time,
Joey wanted to create live cartoon characters, wanting something supernatural. The first Bendy seemingly was born at this stage, which turned out to become the Ink Demon or the Ink Bendy, as no other attempts were made to make him again. Further down in one of the administration rooms, there's a voice recording of Joey denying that the company is facing any financial difficulty, calling it a slander. He continues to call himself a leader and disregards the workers' need of knowing the truth, keeping them in the dark. In another voice recording, Joey talks to Thomas Connor, talking about how their experiments were successful, creating thousands of the ink creatures. He even mentions how he decided to transfer souls into them to make him more human-like, having personalities, which indicates what the coffins and the ritualistic symbols were earlier in the game. They were used to transfer the souls of the workers into these creatures. Another voice memo from Joey remarks what his little chat with Susie Campbell was all about after mistreating her and replacing her. Joey lies and deceives Susie into binding her soul into the Alice Angel character to make her come to life. He keeps on repeating his quote that dreams come true and seemingly manages to do the ritual with her. According to what the deformed Alice Angel said, she was first a goo of ink, shapeless and ugly, but she managed to give herself a shape. It seems as if she was one of the first, if not the first experiment of Joey, who always had new ideas, with an insane one, to create real-life cartoon characters, and not just mascots, in order to bring more attention to his company. This shows how in fact Susie Campbell becoming the twisted Alice Angel, was just a victim of Joey's psychopathic experiments and ideas. She was just innocent enough to believe his lies and deceits, causing her demise, seeing herself become a villain, a twisted version of herself with split personalities. The writings on the wall, the creator lied to us, now makes sense, as Joey lied to his victims, saying dreams come true, while in fact, he used them to conduct his psychopathic experiments. And also these creatures thought of Joey as their creator, as seemingly they lost their memories as they traveled through the ink tunnel. Just like how Alice and Tom lost their memories of who they are. In the film vault, Alice and Tom show up, who help Henry open a door, who tells them that he wants to go to the ink demon's lair as the trail seems to lead him there. The final destination is the giant ink machine in the depths of the studio. Before entering it, Henry talks to Alice, thinking to what his purpose is in here, and why he was brought here. Alice encourages him and tells him there's always a reason and that he should help the trapped souls get free.
Well, a drop of water in the ocean is rarely seen again.
And I guess it's all up to me. And I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't even know why this is all happening to me.
You're here for a reason, Henry. There's always a reason. Even when you can't understand it. It's time. Set us free.
Alice and Tom stay behind as they cannot go through the ink puddle, as it would make them disappear due to being made from ink themselves, with Henry being able to walk through the large ink puddle, as he is not made from ink presumably. Reaching a chair with a voice memo left for Henry, Joey informs them how they created moving characters that remained alive in the hearts of children. But when the company started going bankrupt, only demons remained behind, and the only way he could defeat the ink demon or the ink Bendy is to show him the ending, which is a film reel.
Simply awe-inspiring what one can accomplish with their own hands. A lump of clay can turn to meaning if you strangle it with enough enthusiasm. Look what we've built. We created life itself, Henry. Not just on a silver screen, but in the hearts of those we entertain with our fancy moving pictures. But when the tickets stopped selling, when the next big thing came along, only the monsters remained. Shadows of the past. But you can save them, Henry. You can peel it all away. You see, there's only one thing Bendy has never known. He was there for his beginning, but he's never seen the end.
The ink Bendy then transforms into an even larger, scarier form and sets on chasing after Henry. After Henry successfully evades him, he plays the film reel, projecting the end, which makes the ink demon get destroyed. This might suggest how the ink Bendy is the direct representation of Joey's obsession and inner demon, who never let go of the idea of pushing through with his failing company, exploiting and abusing his employees, something that needed to see the ending to disappear. After a flash, Henry opens his eyes and finds himself in a small house, not resembling the hand-drawn look of the world he was previously in. It seems as if he's back in real world, As he goes to the kitchen, he's welcomed by a man washing his dishes. He mentions that he didn't expect Henry for another hour. He continues that these men went their separate ways, Henry got a family, and this man got a crooked empire, and how Henry used to push him to do good things. In an uneasy, resentful tone, the man tells Henry that he should have pushed him harder. He then repeats the same lines from the beginning of the game, that he needs him to go to the old workshop as there's something he wants to show him.
Henry! So soon! I didn't expect you for another hour yet. Now you're just trying to impress me. But I know. You have questions. You always do. The only important question is this. Who are we, Henry? I thought I knew who I was. But the success starved me. Nothing left but lines on a page. In the end, we followed two different roads of our own making. You, a lovely family. Me, a crooked empire. And my road burned. I let our creations become my life. The truth is, you were always so good at pushing, old friend. Pushing me to do the right thing. You should have pushed a little harder. Henry, come visit the old workshop. There's something I need to show you.
Confirming that this man is no other than Joey Drew. As Henry opens the door, the world in front of his eyes transforms into the hand-drawn world he was trapped in before, with him saying the words, "Alright Joey, I'm here. Let's see if I can find what he wanted me to see," which suggests how Henry forgot his earlier interaction with Joey, repeating the same loop from the very beginning. In a post-credit scene, a painting of the trio cartoon characters can be seen signed by Henry Stein, given to Joey. A voice of a little girl can then be heard asking Joey to tell another one, addressing him as Uncle Joey. A smaller version of the ink machine can also be observed being in one of the rooms.
Tell me another one, Uncle Joey.
This shows how the daughter of Henry is kept under the guardianship of Joey, and how Joey is keeping Henry on a never-ending loop. There are several theories surrounding the ending and what the entire story represents, which could be both metaphorical and real, ultimately making it down to the players for interpretation. I have a few theories which I will discuss in a subsequent video, going over the ending in much more depth. That's about it for today's video, folks. If you enjoyed it, you can stay tuned for more by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. You can also check out the merch if you have a taste in horror-themed clothing. You can also contact me directly on Twitter if you have good suggestions for new games you want to see on the channel, and any significant theories about any games. It's been your host Star. Till the next video, have a fantastic day.